Did humans live with dinosaurs continued? Now we're going to look at how old are the fossils. Aren't all fossils proven to be old? Well, let's look at how the ages of fossils are measured. Fossil age is simply determined by the age of the layer of rock, that is the strata, that it is found in. And these are found in sedimentary rock. So how is the age of this sedimentary rock or strata determined? Well, by the age of the fossils that are found in the rock. But aren't the ages of the rocks determined by the age of the fossils? Well, that's correct. And so it keeps going on around and around in a circle. This is known as circular reasoning. There is simply no accurate way to measure any fossil unless it has carbon-14 in it. Then it is much younger than millions of years old. So this means that no one can tell how old any fossil is. Now, rocks, in this case I'm talking about igneous rocks, rocks formed by heat such as lava, that type of thing, have been measured to be hundreds of thousands of years old, up to literally billions of years old. But then are discovered to actually be just hundreds or thousands of years old in real life. In other words, the measurements are in the millions to billions of years, and yet historically the rocks are only hundreds or possibly thousands of years old. The methods used to measure these rocks have been shown to be horrendously inaccurate by literally millions of percent. Well, let's look at another aspect too. Was there a flood? If we look at the geological column, it would appear that a huge flood would explain the mix-up of the layers and the mixing of the fossils throughout the different layers much better than the slow process of evolution. A flood would leave a general order of heavier and less mobile creatures being on the lower layers, along of course with the sea creatures, but with the lighter and more mobile creatures higher up. Well, there are enormous amounts of evidence to support the idea that there was a worldwide flood in the past. The best piece of evidence to support the idea is the vast amounts of marine fossils that are in every continent in the world and in the very highest mountain ranges in the world. Many of these, millions, have been found out literally miles up in these mountains. So the idea of a worldwide flood was well accepted until just a few decades ago. It appears that the evidence is now causing a huge resurgence of this idea. But because of the nature of a gigantic flood, mixture would be somewhat common. And that is indeed the case. This mixture, that is, fossils being in the wrong order, is actually very common. In fact, some of the layers are completely reversed. That is, the younger layers are below some of the so-called older layers. It now appears that the belief in a worldwide flood is backed up by science much better than what we have been told, and that the Earth is much younger than we have been told. If this is the case, then it would make sense that dinosaurs and humans have lived together up until just recently. Or maybe they still do in some cases. So rather than humans living with dinosaurs in ages past, is it possible that dinosaurs have lived with us in the very recent history? Well, let's take a look. If we look at history, we will discover numerous accounts of man dealing with dragons. Well, today these creatures are called dinosaurs. Both simply refer to large or huge reptiles. If we go back into historical accounts, such as the book of Job in the Old Testament, there is a perfect description of a Brontosaurus-like creature. Accounts of knights killing dragons and very large beasts are not uncommon in the Middle Ages. There are even some pictures of these encounters drawn by artists. These artist renditions of these beasts look like dinosaurs that have been discovered recently. So the question arises, why have the dinosaurs disappeared if they have lived with humans up until the last few hundred years? Well, the answer is actually twofold. Number one, as previously mentioned, humans have killed many of them. But number two, the lungs of these creatures are generally very small. It has been shown by science that the atmospheric pressure was considerably higher in the past. The concentration of oxygen was also greater. So as this changed to the atmosphere that we have today, dinosaurs in general would have a much more difficult time getting the amount of air needed to live. And the estimates are that they would be getting about 33% of the oxygen intake compared to the past. Well, does this mean that there are no dinosaurs left alive on Earth today? Well, not necessarily. This will be continued on the next video.